very, very warm welcome to my podcast, brought to you by Michael Glanville Executive Coaching. And as I always say, I have the absolute privilege of being here with this guy, Dan Hughes. Dan is the founder of Vitae Vi. We'll get into how the name was created and what you do in just a moment. I've been privileged to know Dan for many years.
Too many years.
We've got lots and lots to talk about. So Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Now,
privileged to be here, by the way.
Oh, good. I'm glad you feel that way. That's fantastic. Now, I normally ask a question, where did it all start? But if it's all right with you, I'm going to go with, tell us a little bit about Vitae Vi.
Okay.
And what it does. And if you don't mind, at some point, you might just try out some of the stuff.
Yeah,
let's see how it goes.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
What's
cool.
Vitae
That's
Vi?
a good idea. Okay, so Vitae Vi is a direct Latin translation for life force. And what I do with breathwork and cold immersion training and functional breath training is really ignite that life force again. We've all got these very ancient mechanisms in our system that are largely dormant because we live so comfortably. And actually what I do is help you reignite those things and create an environment in your body that is so robust. So your immune system is improved, your energy levels are improved, your cardiovascular system is efficient, and so on and so on. So Vitae Vi is that, that Latin description of life force. And we run, I say we because my wife Karen is a co-founder as well, and we run classes and courses and workshops in various different guises to help people, extract that life force.
Amazing. Extracting the life force.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds a little bit like a movie. Very exciting. Okay, so how do you extract the life force? I mean, what is the function of the business? How do you kind of get that into people?
So we've got various ways that we kind of get people into the programs, and it's all geared around some very, very simple structured techniques and mechanisms, and we deliver those through classes or courses or workshops, and it can be as simple as spending an hour with us learning how to functionally breathe. That's how to breathe day to day to help with anxiety and stress, or focus and concentration, or sport performance and recovery, and even sleep, right the way through to 5 or 6 session programs that are designed to overcome a serious illness, or really focus on a particular sporting activity where the way you breathe has a huge impact on the way you perform. For example, we're working with one of the UK Olympic world-class programs to get the athletes ready for the Olympics 2028 and using their breath to help.
And that's really interesting. Is that using their breath for enhancing performance from a physical performance point of view, or is it about their mental health, their stability around, or a bit of both?
Great question. Both is the answer, because if you are not using your breath functionally during the day, and learning how to manage your nervous system, and therefore learning how to use your nervous system to help with sleep, then you can't perform at your best in those moments of sporting performance, or when that performance is necessary.
Okay. That's interesting, but it isn't just a breathwork, is it? So
it's not. No. So
a mixture of kind of cold water stuff as well.
Yeah. So that's really kind of focused on the functional breathing. Then we've got breathwork, which is basically lying down on a yoga mat and learning how to breathe in a specific pattern for a specific outcome.
Okay.
So the breathwork that we run is all geared around health and well-being. And again, it's been scientifically proven that the breathwork we coach is really good for immunity, really good for energy levels, really good for cardiovascular system, as well as a whole host of other health and well-being things. And then layered on top of all of that is I'm a Wim Hof Method Instructor, so I incorporate cold immersion techniques into some of the training that we offer as well. So using the cold to create a hormetic stress, a positive stress on your body, which again ignites a whole load of mechanisms that have, in the body system that have become dormant over time. Because back in those days where we lived in caves, we had to adapt. Our bodies had to adapt to the winter. We had to adapt to the summer. We had to adapt to moments where we didn't have enough to eat or drink. And actually, what we're doing by putting people through both the breathwork and the cold immersion is reigniting those adaptations in our body, which are the things that, just create a much more robust system. So, for example, given my medical history, which is quite complicated, I would always be the first one to catch a cold or catch the flu. And since I've been practicing this stuff, not a sniff.
Amazing.
It's incredible. I feel so robust. And, I've had, in the last 12 months, had over 1,000 people come through the breathwork classes, all breathing, all emitting all their bugs and pathogens and all the rest of it. Not a thing.
You lucky thing.
Yeah, it really does help with that kind of that robustness in your body system.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you are actually a businessman. So how did you wake up one morning and think, I'm breathing today, I want to become a Wim Hof instructor? Or what? I mean, what was the journey?
Okay, a businessman. I love that. I, as well, Mike, and I will maybe touch on our history and how we know each other later on. But I've come through, in the last 10 years or so, quite heavy duty, quite senior level corporate life. And thoroughly enjoyed it. Lots of travel, lots of really interesting things to get my teeth into. But again, going back to the fact that my immune system was compromised as a result of some serious illness in my late 30s, early 40s, I wasn't surprised that I got COVID in 2022, early 2022. And I never fully recovered from it. And in fact, I was diagnosed after many, many months of really, really struggling with everything, cognitive skills, energy levels, sleep. My ability to hold a conversation was severely impacted. I had terrible nervous system deregulation. I couldn't feel anything.
Gosh.
I wasn't able to drive. 20 months this went on for. And I went from 100 miles an hour to 0 miles an hour in a very short space of time. I was eventually diagnosed with long COVID. And at the time, in early 2022, the medical fraternity didn't fully understand what long COVID was or is, and I still don't think they necessarily do. And they were prescribing medication to deal with the symptoms, not the cause. So sleeping tablets, gastrointestinal tablets, tablets for sleep, tablets for pain relief, all sorts of things, which I refused to take because I'd literally had a stomach full of them back in my late 30s and 40. Yeah. So I was looking at alternative ways to try and find a pathway for myself. And actually, in fairness to my GP, who was amazing, he actually put me in touch with a couple of research programs that the university hospitals are running into long COVID to try and understand what long COVID was. One of those research programs with Cambridge University, and one of the things they recommended was non-sleep deep rest, NSDR, which is literally taking yourself out of the day-to-day environment, so moving into a different room, sitting or lying, but not trying to nap, not trying to meditate, just bringing your attention into your breath.
Okay.
And really slowing your breath right down, making it as light as you possibly can, noticing where that breath is going, noticing any sensations as a result of that breath. So really, it was like, it's like meditation, but it's very inward focused, introspective. And after doing that on a couple of occasions, I felt a little bit different. I can't tell you how, but something shifted. So I started to practice it more. One of my symptoms was also extreme temperature. So I'd just get incredibly hot, sweat pouring off me for no apparent reason. So I would take myself up and have a cold shower just to cool off a little bit. And again, that made me feel different. Now, this is where the stars align, because on one day, my best buddy phoned me up and said, I've just finished reading this book by a crazy Dutchman called Wim Hof. It's apparently really good for nervous system, insomnia, energy levels, general health and well-being. You should give it a read. So I ordered it there and then, and sure enough, the book arrived. On the very same day, my employer at the time said, we've, as part of the staff wellbeing program, we've organised a Wim Hof Method workshop, and we've saved you a place because apparently it's really good for energy levels and insomnia and nervous system regulation, all the things you're suffering from. We'd love you to come along. So in a couple of months' time. I'd never heard of this bloke, and 2 people mentioned his name on the same day.
That's amazing.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Anyway, I read the book, became really interested in the fact that the breath work that I had been doing through non-sleep deep rest was actually a form of breath work. And the cold showers that I was doing to cool me down was a form of cold immersion. And when I read Wim Hof, his book, the 2 things joined together, breathwork and cold immersion with the mindset glue that sticks them both together in the middle, I was basically practicing the Wim Hof method. So I became very interested then in what was happening physiologically. I studied biology in college, so I've got an interest in the human body anyway. And I went through the online training for the Wim Hof method. And then the time came for me to make a decision as to, and this is several months down the line, by the way, make a decision as to whether I formalise my training by doing the practical assessment or whether I just park it there and put it down to experience. And I decided to do the practical assessment in the Pyrenees in Spain in the winter, and qualified as a Wim Hof Method Instructor. Now, my intention before I took that practical exam was to return back to work and just carry on doing. I'd only gone through that training program because I needed something to do. My brain was going to mush. I really struggled cognitively, and actually it gave me a sense of purpose every day to get up, do some study, learn some stuff, and understand what was happening to me and practicing it at the same time. And it wasn't until I'd qualified and the decision, my GP said, you're ready to go back to work. Now's the time, because I'd pushed him way before, and he said, absolutely not. I'm not signing you back fit for work because I've seen this happen too often with too many people. Go back too early, you'll crash and burn, you'll be even worse. Yeah. So in fairness to him, he had hold of the handbrake. And when he decided that I was well enough, and I then had a decision to make. Do I go back into that full-time corporate world with lots of travel, lots of pressure, lots of stress, or do I take what I've learnt and form that into some form of business that the guiding light really is to help other people. It's not about me anymore. It's about helping other people. And we set the business up at the end of 2023, and haven't looked back since.
Amazing.
And lots of stuff has happened since then.
Yeah,
we've gone on and trained as advanced Oxygen Advantage functional breathwork coaches. We're in the middle of 400 hours of training for conscious connected breathwork now as well. But the whole driving force of our business is to help other people.
And of course, you're bringing your personal experiences to that as well. So it's your motivations are maybe slightly different to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we've got bills to pay, sure, but that is not that's not the driving force. We give so much stuff away for free because we want people to understand that there are some really simple techniques that you can employ right now that will make a difference to your life right now. Go
on then, tell me one.
Okay, so let's...
I want a difference to my life.
You want a difference, all right. I can't guarantee you're going to immediately feel the difference, but let's take a really simple exercise. Do you remember the old paper bag exercise, where if someone was having a panic attack, you'd pop a paper bag over their mouth and get them to breathe into it. This is very similar, but this is a really clever psychological trick as well. So you're having a moment where you are anxious about something or a bit stressed about something. All you're going to do is place your hands over your mouth and nose, thumbs under your chin, and I'm going to ask you to breathe. So close your hands, and I'll ask you to breathe in through your nose to the count of 4, and then out through your nose to the count of 4. But really notice the area under your armpits opening and closing as you're breathing in. All right, so slow it right down, breathing in to the count of 4 and out to the count of 4. And if you do that for 90 seconds or so, you will really feel a shift. Doesn't make for great podcast material, but you will really feel a shift. And the reason for that is several-fold. First of all, if you're anxious and stressed about something, you're in your head. So immediately you start to focus on your breath. You're taking yourself out of your head. You're counting. So that's one reason you're no longer thinking about the thing that was making you anxious beforehand. And then you're noticing the physical change in your body as you take that breath in and feeling that area under your armpits open and expand. So again, you're really sinking into your body, getting yourself out of your head. Slowing your breath down immediately flips a switch into parasympathetic nervous system. So you're back in rest and digest as opposed to fight and flight. Mm-hmm. But also by cupping your hands, and this is where the science comes in, by cupping your hands, you're capturing carbon dioxide that you breathe out.
Okay.
Now, the trigger to breathe in the human body is not a lack of oxygen. It's a build-up of carbon dioxide in the blood.
So it's an out rather than
it's an out,
required.
yeah. So your brain is saying, we've got too much waste gas, get rid of it, breathe. So you breathe out that carbon dioxide. By capturing carbon dioxide, you're breathing more carbon dioxide in your natural breath. Now here's the really cool bit about carbon dioxide, because it isn't just a waste gas. When you breathe, carbon dioxide levels in your blood begin to creep up, and when they get to a certain point, your body asks you to breathe them out. But if you over-breathe, so if you're a habitual mouth breather, for example, and you're just, in day-to-day life, you're breathing in and out through your mouth, or you're looking at your computer screen and you're answering a difficult email, you're breathing in and out through your mouth probably, your carbon dioxide levels are much lower than they should be. When your carbon dioxide levels are low, the oxygen that you breathe in and latches itself to a red blood cell in your body and travels around your body cannot unlock itself from that red blood cell until there's a corresponding carbon dioxide molecule. So if your carbon dioxide levels are too low, that wonderful oxygen you've just breathed in travels around your body and you breathe it back out again. So by capturing carbon dioxide in your breath through your cupped hands, you are artificially increasing the carbon dioxide level, so every single molecule of oxygen you breathe in is distributed through your body.
So you're being efficient.
You're being super efficient, yeah. It's
Amazing.
Called the Bohr effect, which B-O-H-R, which Karen rather rudely says it's somebody sat down talking about breathing. That's the real Bohr effect.
I hope I'll think that. Well, you heard it here first. Look at that, a real Wim Hof opportunity for people to learn. That's really cool. Thank you so much for putting that in. So as we said at the beginning, I've known you for about 25 years and you were one of my first bosses. And as you say, I called you a businessman, sorry about that. But you have been in some brilliant businesses. You have, you've done some great things, but also led some big teams of people, learned some critical lessons along the way. One of the things we talk about on our podcast, Meeting Amazing Leaders on Their Journey to Success, is about the journey. So thinking about the people that you've developed, you've worked through, you've led, are there lessons, I suppose, that have stood out to you in your career journey that have kind of hung with you and still sort of sit with you today in your managing your own business? Is there things that you've learnt along the way from certain people? You don't need to name any names.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I think probably the biggest lesson I've learned that has really come into play with the business that we operate now is the skill of listening. You've really, particularly in the health and wellbeing environment, you've really got to listen to people to understand what it is they want to try and achieve, what it is they're having difficulties with, and where the blockages might be. If you're not necessarily listening well, you might miss, some critical information when it comes to, helping them overcome some issues. But I think that's a skill that, that has been developed over time. There was probably a time in my career where I wasn't a very good listener. And actually, you would do what I asked you to do, and woe betide you.
Felt like that.
Well, I'm sure you did, Mike. I'm sure that's why you've got no hair like me. But I genuinely think that that's a really really good skill to develop. And listening doesn't necessarily mean you have to come up with the answer either, because if you are able to listen and allow people to talk and bring their issues or their suggestions forward, they will quite often bring up the answer that they're looking for themselves anyway.
Yeah.
So I think I would say listening is probably one of those key skills. In the environment that you and I used to work in, there was some interesting situations developed, and we had to kind of deal with those as they came. But I always used to categorize them into, was it a customer issue first of all, because customers were the lifeblood of the business, and we had to deal with those customers in the right way. So
and
still are, if it was a customer, we reacted to it straight away. If it was a health and safety issue, we reacted to that straight away as well, because health and safety in an environment where you've got public is a really important thing. Or was it a financial decision? And if it was a financial decision, did it need to be made right there and then, or could you push it down the road a little bit? So those three things were how I used to kind of define where the priorities were. If it was a customer issue, straight on it. If it was health and safety, straight on it. If it was financial, used to try and kick it down the road if I could.
but of course, whilst being straight on it.
Of course,
absolutely.
Of course.
You talked a little while ago about your health journey. Thank you for that. But as you introduced that, you touched on the travel, the flying, the pressures, and a lot of people that watch our podcast are leaders in businesses that are facing similar challenges. They're looking at 2026, and by the time this goes out, 2026 will have started. But they're looking at 2026 and thinking, okay, well, it's all work-life balance. How do I fit my priorities of my work in my and my home life together? What do I want out of my career next? What do you think you learnt most from going through that period of, I suppose you describe it as significant pressure? Would you have wanted to be in a situation, I'm sure you would, where you could control it enough not to have had, the health challenges you had and so on?
Without a shadow of a doubt, Mike. And I think there are some really simple techniques that I wish I'd known back in the day. So, dealing with, in the environment that I was in, I was dealing with different time zones. So my day would start very, very early because I was dealing with one time zone and end very, very late in the day, often dealing with things at the other end of the time zone. And then throw in a bit of travel in between, international travel or European travel, difficult routines, dealing with the job when you got there. So, I was
doing the work.
Fly to the Middle East, and be expected to be absolutely on it at 8:30 that morning, their time, even though I'd had 2.5 hours sleep and was feeling really groggy. You have to kind of wade your way through that. The things I wish I'd known were twofold, I guess. One was learning how not to allow the pressures of travel to create extra stress, and it is stressful. Flights don't arrive on time, flights don't leave on time, taxis don't arrive, whatever it may be. It's a stressful environment. It's also incredibly unhealthy. You're sitting in a tin can, breathing recycled air, not healthy at all. So using techniques that would enable that stress level to be reduced during travel, and I'll talk about that in a second. And secondly, getting really good sleep. That is the fundamental foundation for life. If your body is not able to repair and restore itself through sleep, then you are already on the back foot. So learning how to get really good sleep, even in difficult environments, I think is a key strength, really, particularly if you're doing lots of travel and working in different time zones. And the most effective way that I've found to overcome that sleep issue is mouth taping. So taping your mouth closed at night.
Wow.
So that you are breathing through your nose. And when you breathe through your nose, your breath rate calms right down. You go into much, much deeper sleep. And as a result of much, much deeper sleep, your body is able to restore and repair itself, as it needs to. If you're sleeping too lightly, then your brain is not getting the opportunity to clean and file and organize.
Wow. Okay.
And it's such a simple thing. It's an absolute game changer. So if you breathe through your mouth very gently now, and then put your tongue to the roof of your mouth, notice where your breath has gone.
To my nose.
To your nose.
Right.
Now close your lips and notice where your tongue is.
To the top.
Roof of your mouth.
Yeah.
So all we're doing by mouth taping, and all I'm suggesting here is just a single strip of mouth tape across your lips, closing your lips, tongue stays in its parking place, breathe through your nose, breath rate slows down, everything goes into that deep rest that you need.
Wow.
So simple, really, really effective. And I'm sure somehow through the mechanics of a podcast, we can put a couple of links to mouth tape that people can buy themselves and,
so it's kind
give
of
it a go.
Special stuff.
Well, no, not really. It's medical grade micropore tape is all we suggest. And
Wow.
There's a couple of blogs that we've written on our website that people can read as well. So I'll make sure those are available too.
Yeah. Okay.
But then going back to the keeping the stress levels down during travel and helping you overcome those moments of deep anxiety and deep stress is just to focus on your breath, but just extend your exhale. So always breathing through the nose, keeping it nice and gentle, because the bigger you take, or the faster the breath, the more stressed you're going to be. So keeping it really gentle and light in through the nose, and then just extending your exhale out through your mouth. And you will immediately start to feel calmer. When you're on a plane, in a tin can with all that recycled air, breathing in and out through your nose is absolutely critical as well, because if you're breathing through your mouth, you're taking all those airborne pathogens and germs straight down into your lungs. The air you're breathing is dry. You're going to create inflammation. You're going to create congestion. All the time you're breathing through your nose, you're filtering, cleaning, dehumidifying, anti-backing, pathogenizing all that air through your nose. That's what it's there for. It's on the front of your face for a reason.
Amazing. This is breathing insight after breathing insight.
It's such a...
You're so passionate about it. That's what I just... Yeah,
it saved my life, Mike.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt. It saved my life. I was in a really dark place during long COVID, because all of the things that I felt back in my late 30s and 40s, where I couldn't run, I couldn't cycle, I couldn't sail, I couldn't do all the things that keep me alive, keep me happy and healthy, I couldn't do any of those things. And I was desperate to find a route back. We spend so much time and energy thinking about nutrition and hydration and exercise and all the rest of it. We never consider our breath, and yet it is fundamental to our health and well-being. If you are not breathing well, you can never truly be well. And that's the difference. That's the difference between people who breathe as they should be. They're well and healthy and their body is working as it needs to work. Those that are not breathing well will be feeling the difference. Anxiety levels will be up, headaches, lack of energy, lack of ability to sleep, coughs and colds all the time, cold hands and feet. That's a classic symptom of somebody who's not breathing well. So if any of your viewers, listeners are suffering from cold hands and feet, the chances are you're not breathing as you should do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's all linked.
So lower back pain is quite often linked to not breathing well as well. So there's a whole range of things that are directly associated with not breathing as you should do. If you are breathing well, they are almost entirely reversed. So, all the things I've just mentioned, anxiety, stress, headaches, fatigue, sleep, cold hands and feet, are almost immediately reversed.
Wow.
Yeah.
If people wanted to contact you to find out a little bit more about Vitae Vi and Wim Hof and so on, how would they do that? On your website? Yeah,
website is the place to go, and we're available on www.vitaevi.co.uk. So VITAEVI.co.uk, and we're on all the social channels as well at Vitae Vi Official, and I'm on LinkedIn also, Dan Hughes.
Fabulous.
So lots of and I really encourage you to go and have a look around our website, actually, and particularly in the blogs, because there's so much information there that you might find helpful. Anything from mouth taping at night right through to using your breath for anxiety and stress, or using your breath to enhance sport performance, etc.
Amazing. Okay, so we'll put that up onto the screen, but we've talked a little bit around, I suppose, if you'll allow me, the low points and how you've dealt with that, and it's going really well, so that's fantastic. But throughout your career, there must have been some career highs as well. So what sticks in your mind as being what's the Dan Hughes career high?
I've had, and this sounds perhaps too cliche, but I've had so many that actually it would be difficult to nail one in particular. I've had the fortune to have a job that has enabled me to travel the world, and in the environment that I was working in, enabled me to travel to some particularly nice parts of the world as well, and do some really nice things, and meet some incredible people. I think that's probably the highlight, actually, is the people I've met along the way. And it's been such a privilege to go to different countries and different cultures, and really get to understand what it's all about. And doing business in different parts of the world, where you have to then be very sensitive to those ways of life and their cultures, I think is a real skill and a privilege. When people invite you along as a UK-based business to go and work with them, and you're able to show them that you immediately understand their culture and the way they operate, makes a massive difference to the way they then receive you. For example, going into an Arab country, for example, and there may be females in the room, perhaps someone who was not aware of the culture would reach forward to shake somebody's hand, and of course that's not permitted in certain cultures. So just those nuances and understanding where the boundaries lie, I think, is really important. And when you convey that you understand those boundaries, they just open their arms to you. Wonderful. And I guess also a lot of people in different parts of the world want to show you the very best of their culture as well. So you get to go and see some incredible things and do some incredible things as well. So yeah, it's the people for me.
Those are the highs. It's the people.
Yeah.
Now, you've led quite a lot of people in your life, so lots of leadership roles. And obviously this is about meeting amazing leaders. So you're now an amazing leader. You were before. What would you say was the biggest people management challenge you've had? And how did you kind of get yourself through that or overcome it?
I think again, going back to that situation that I mentioned, where if a decision had to be made, if it was a customer decision, it was easy. If it was a health and safety decision, it was easy, and so on. I think of all the things that leaders and managers need to overcome or the most difficult thing they need to overcome are the people issues, because you're dealing with real people, and you're dealing not only with that employee, for example, but you're dealing with their family as well. So a decision you make based on that employee, could well have an effect on a wider population. I think, some very difficult conversations I've had to have, and I'm not going to go into the details of some of those in any detail, but I've had to make some very, very difficult decisions. And I think as long as you remember that you're dealing with a human being and not just a number on a spreadsheet, that's the only way to treat them with humanity. Even though they may have done something wrong, they are still people. And I think that's an important thing to consider. I think when it comes to dealing with people, trying to understand what's causing the problem that they're creating. Empathy, yeah. So for example, I had a guy who, lots of complaints from members of the team about the fact that he had an odor issue, and I sat down with him and just very gently went through this with him, and it turns out that he didn't have enough uniform, so he was having to recycle his uniform. And he wasn't having time on his shift pattern to wash and get it dried before he wore it the next day. Very simple.
Took the time to understand.
People were gossiping and being really quite spiteful about this particular individual. But understanding what had caused that problem, it was such a simple thing to overcome. And it wiped the slate clean. Everybody was happy. So dealing with that empathy, I think, in an empathic way is really important.
Fantastic. Great messages. Okay, so the last question we always ask is, what message would you give our viewers and listeners about either founding a business or about your fantastic career journey and being a leader, or just about life, the universe, breathing and everything? What would your message be?
2 messages, if that's permitted.
Is that permitted? Fine. Yeah? We're going to go with 2.
So first one is, whenever you can, remember LSD. Not the sort of LSD you're thinking about, but LSD as in light, slow, deep. Okay. If you breathe light through your nose, really lightly, you will naturally slow your breath down and your breath will go much deeper. So breathing lightly in and out through your nose is the correct way to breathe. Okay. And you're setting yourself on the right path then to breathing properly. So that would be my first kind of top tip. Secondly, when it comes to setting up and running your own business, just do it. Just give it a go. Give it a go.
Everybody says, because you've got to just do it.
You can procrastinate. You can plan. I set a very structured business plan together, and I knew exactly where we were headed, and that was the path we were going on. But actually, it's gone over here somewhere, and it's blooming good fun. So get along, do it, learn as you go, make the mistakes as you go, because what have you got to lose? We've all got bills to pay. We can all go and find a support job if we need to in the meantime, but go and do something that is going to help other people, and just go and do it.
This makes you smile every day.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like work.
It doesn't feel like
doesn't
work.
feel like
work.
That,
that's a great message in itself. It doesn't feel like work. Thank you so much for doing our podcast. Really, really valuable insights for our viewers and listeners.
Thank you.
If you like what you've heard or seen today, then there are plenty of other amazing podcasts on meeting amazing leaders on their journey to success, or at Michael Glanville Podcaster on YouTube. But for now, I want to say thank you very much, Dan Hughes.
Thanks, Mike.
And it's been wonderful, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next podcast.